Welcome to this special edition of our Sunday show. It's 8:30 p.m. We are at the magical Grand Palais where world players will gather for a global AI summit. Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for being here. And good evening, Palki Sharma. Namaste, Palki. We're going to do this interview together. Thanks for being here. This will also be broadcast in India. And just to have an idea, Palki, how many people generally follow you in interviews?
Namaste, and thank you for having me here. And namaste, Mr. President. How are you doing?
I'm fine. And Bharat ke logon ko meri namaste.
Kya baat hai. Thank you very much. And to your question, my favorite question, how many people watch? Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. But,
and I'll try to be good enough.
We're very excited to talk about the subject that we've gathered here to talk about, artificial intelligence. You're hosting a summit. What do you think about AI as a policymaker and as an individual? Are you wary about what's coming? Are you excited? Do you think it's a threat? Do you think it's a gift to humankind? What are your views?
Thank you for being here, and thank you to both of you for giving me the opportunity to talk about AI. We are living through an absolute technological and scientific revolution, and it's almost unprecedented. So this is an opportunity for humanity. And this is something that I personally am following with a lot of interest. I'm convinced that it's a new era for progress, and that France and Europe and its partners like India need to seize these opportunities because they will allow us to live better, to learn better, to work better, to heal better. And I think that it's up to us to make sure that it serves humanity. So, before we talk about that, let's talk about positive things. Yes, indeed, because AI is already here. It's here in medicine, for instance, with research, with acceleration of research that's exponential. For instance, the early detection of cancer. That is a reality today in France, isn't it? Yes, it is in France and in the world. There's a bit of a race in that field. I see pictures here that you're showing. And a few days ago, I was at the Institut Gustave Roussy Cancer Center. It is one of the best centers in Europe, the 4th in the world, and we hope to become first thanks to our investments. And our researchers are cutting edge. We have collected a great deal of data, and thanks to AI, we can do prevention and preventive diagnostics as well. And I see this picture you're showing, which was shown to me just 2 days ago as well. Using MRI images, sometimes it took a lot of time to identify cancerous cells. And thanks to AI, because we're putting together so much data, because we have computing power, we can see things much more quickly. So, for instance, a tumor, you can detect it more quickly, and you can more specifically target areas for radiotherapy. And so there's a lot to do in the field. You know, there's also the digital twin that I was told about. With all the data that you collect, you can create a digital twin. And don't worry, everything is being done responsibly by science. And the idea is to test whether a treatment will work or not. And you test it on your twin. So you see it on the left and on the right. You see how the AI is identifying the area that needs to be treated using radiotherapy. So this is progress, a concrete progress, and thanks to AI, in medicine, we can prevent better, we can detect things much better, instead of having to do a biopsy or blood tests, and you had to do a biopsy several weeks after a blood test. Now we can be much more precise.
Right. In fact, we have on the sets Oscar, who is using Wondercraft, piloting it with the help of artificial intelligence, and we would like you to tell our viewers about that as well. How does that work?
Wow.
Ah, ça, c'est une entreprise française.
This is a French company.
Ça s'appelle Wondercraft.
Wondercraft, yes.
Regardez ça.
Watch this. And that is AI that is making all this possible. Actually, it's optimizing it. So some of the images we saw are also French research at the Gustave Roussy Center with partners in Villejuif, in Saclay, big universities around Paris. And one of the companies was created by French people in the US, and I hope they come back to France. And what you see here with Wondercraft and Oscar, and thanks to Oscar for being here. I saw them 2 years ago. They're close to here, actually, based in Rue de Rivoli. The exoskeleton is mechanical, and you have a remote control on the side. So what's the role of AI? Well, it has computing power which assists the skeleton, and because they've put so much data in there and because their processors are of such good quality, they can recontextualize continuously and improve the capacity of the exoskeleton. It is consistently optimized, and it understands how he's walking, and it also understands the environment that he's in. So what's important to understand is that AI is actually technology which will allow people, using their enormous computing power and their ability to manage huge data sets, that they will be able to train and will be able to optimize mechanics. Palki, here, as in France, would you say that in India people are worried about AI?
I think people are excited. AI adoption in India is high. But there are concerns, of course, just like in France, there are concerns about job losses. What will it do to the job market? There are concerns about misinformation, about copyright violations, about intellectual property rights. So that is my question to you then. How, as a policymaker, how are you going to address those concerns? Who will make the rules to regulate AI, and who will enforce those rules?
Well, the first thing, before I get to that, is that, first of all, we need to be a part of the race. And for me, one of the main messages, and I think we'll come back to that when we think about the geopolitics of innovation, before you regulate, you have to say, well, we want to be a part of this. We want to invent solutions and technologies, and we want to create our own. We don't want to be dependent on others. But so, what about people who say that the best worker ever is actually going to be an AI? Well, that's not true. That's not true. That's also something that will disrupt the labor market. You have to think of them as assistants. AI will not replace humans. I don't think so. I don't believe in that. It's a technology change, and now we have these generative models, language models. But it's been decades that we've actually had AI, but now we have computing power, and we have the speed of operation that's much faster. But laborers, lawyers, journalists, everything's changing. Yes, but when we built this Grand Palais, work was different. We worked differently. There was technological progress since. So we have to prepare for that. We have to train for it. Now, in my first term, we actually created trainings. From the 11th grade, we had digital training, and we have a large number of youth who are interested in science today. 40,000 students a year, which has now gone up to 100,000 students a year. And we're going to train them. And that will completely transform our jobs. You're right. So in tasks that are very repetitive, you're actually going to be able to delegate some tasks to these assistants.
But there are enough and more studies that show that jobs are going to be lost. And do you think that we are moving fast enough in the direction of training the workforce to ensure that people do not suffer? Because that is a real worry.
You're right. The key is to train and to support people, because their jobs will change. So people who do repetitive tasks, maybe they will have an AI assistant who will do some of that for them. Back office work in the service industry, sometimes draft some responses and so on. But that will help people to free up time to do other things, to be more present. So if you look at care workers, there might be AI assistants who do some of the more repetitive tasks, but that gives people space to do more, to do other things. In our countries today, we talk about it every day. You, in fact, Laurent, talk about it every day. Many care workers find their jobs very difficult, and so AI will help delegate some of this work and place humanity at the heart of it. A robot or an AI can't make a caring phone call, isn't capable of physical touch, can't connect with somebody old. I don't believe that. What I think is that it's about delegating things that you don't want to do. And I believe, and it's up to our society to organize that it's going to free up time. And not all economists agree. Some say it'll be huge productivity gains. Others say no, not so much. But we need to arrange things so that AI helps you free up time for these repetitive, low value-added tasks so that you can have more time. So people in public services, for instance, they need to spend time with us. They need to be humane. There's a lot of loneliness and solitude in our society, so we need to delegate some tasks. And I was saying that for the care sector, and it's up to us to organize that. But I don't think that will be replaced. This is a debate we already had when robots turned up. We talked about it in the 90s. People said robots will replace us. And we actually blocked the development of robotics. And we deindustrialized in a way. And that's something we're correcting now. We've been correcting it for a few years. In sectors where we have robots, well, our workers, they are trained. They pilot these robots. They don't have as many health issues. They have time. They follow the quality and they create more value. Another risk is manipulation, identity theft, scams. Today you published a video of yourself and we're going to see some videos. Palki, what do you think about this video that was posted today? It's actually it's actually a compilation of AI-generated images. Now, it's funny, but not just funny.
Ensuite, tous les cheveux qui restent sur le côté droit. La techno a une culture à part entière. On est attaché à la bagnole. On aime la bagnole.
Does it bother you? You posted it, I know, to make a point.
Non, je l'ai posté pour montrer.
I posted it to show.
Mais
I mean, in a way to spark debate. But this is what AI can help you do. Or AI does. Yes, it does it for teenagers. Yes, this is what generative AI does. So you have this technology which can generate language, large language models. Mistral, a European champion, a French champion. I'm sure you're all using it. And you know, actors and singers are worried about that. Yes, hold on. So you can create videos and all of that. And in a way, it's a great thing. You can produce content faster. It can correct you. It can teach you things. But you need to understand it and you need to put it into context. So do you think artists are right to be worried? Yes, I mean, Jean-Michel Jarre is a great artist, a pioneer of electro music and uses AI. But there's this, the theft is a reality. Yes, but that existed before AI. You know, copyright is a right, and 5 years ago, there was no need for AI. With social media, we were already threatening copyright, and France fought to protect copyright. And we have the French model scaled to the EU now, and we protect intellectual property. So we need to do the same thing with AI. We need to be clear on when AI produced it and when a human produced it.
My question is, who's doing it, Mr. President? The thing is that a lot of technology is being thrown into the market and governments are very keen to be on board. As you said, we want to be part of the race. But who is creating guardrails? Who is making sure that this is not causing harm? Because there is real harm being caused.
I think that there should be global regulation. I think we shouldn't regulate things only locally because the innovation is global. We need partnerships between private and public stakeholders and that the right behaviors are encouraged. So I think that people should say when something has been created by AI. So the French press agency is signing an agreement with Mistral on this. And tomorrow we are announcing this public-private partnership. That's why I think that gradually we need to make sure that public and private players recontextualize all of this and that they say very clearly, this is AI and this is not. So it's great for artists to use AI. Tomorrow, you'll see here a creation by Agoria. So if you're able to use it and say that you did, that's a good thing, and you should protect intellectual property. If a journalist uses it, it's a good thing. But they need to be clear that they did.
Are you putting the onus of that censorship or regulation on the people, just like you did with social media, that they need to do this?
I think that it needs to be governments around the world who do it voluntarily. But you know, tomorrow, who will be here? There will be political powers, but there'll also be tech players, and they've become states in their own right, in a way. Why was it so hard for social media to regulate social media? What would these people say? They would say, no, we don't want to regulate. And look what's happening in the US. You're right, and that's a challenge. What's the challenge for Europe? We all agree with what you're saying, but if you regulate before you innovate, then there's no innovation. You can say we have great regulation in Europe, but we don't have innovation. But sometimes a ban is not the answer. Yes, if we do that, we won't innovate, and that's the problem. So don't ban, but do regulate. Well, the first battle for us as Europeans is invest, invest, invest. And I hope we will talk about it, because we have very big announcements to make for France and Europe. But I also believe we need to regulate, and that is our fight on social media as well. In 2017, I fought against hate speech, anti-Semitism and racism on social media, and people defending terrorism on social media. Do you think it's being fast enough? No, it's not. But in 2017, with Theresa May, after the terrorist attacks, everybody said, free speech, let's not regulate. But then there was the Christchurch terrorist attack, where using social media, a terrorist filmed the attack. And here in Paris in 2019, we launched the Christchurch call, and we succeeded. Within 1 hour, we could remove terrorist content, even on American platforms.
So social media today is safer because they have removed fact checkers. So with all of that, you've done.
Now you're talking about something a little different. One, we managed what we call the golden hour, which means that within 1 hour we can remove terrorist content. In Europe, we have a regulation, we have done it, we have implemented it, and it's going to change, right? Yes, in Europe, platforms have a responsibility when they disseminate hate, anti-Semitism or racism. But the US is not doing it. The Chinese are not doing it. India is still thinking about it. So actually, we're at the cutting edge in Europe. And we are trying to push for moderation. But you are right, that platforms said, we don't want to moderate. That's politics. We're all about free speech. Well, they're wrong. Why are they wrong? Because behind social media and in AI too, there are algorithms, and these algorithms help you do incredible things, but they always have biases, and so they need to be transparent so that you can verify them. And they need to be transparent for all. All that to say that there's a huge challenge, a huge regulatory challenge, and that is why with Canada we have a global partnership for AI. And India chaired it last year, actually. But that is that we need to do at a global scale. And in Europe, we're pioneers. But we need to involve everyone, because we cannot regulate just in one geography. So the summit that's going to take place here, it's not a summit amongst friends, is it? Not everybody gets along. Not everyone has the same ambitions. On the one hand, you have CEOs, tech giants, be they Chinese, American, European, French, sometimes smaller companies as well. So, what is the ambition of such a summit? Are you trying to tell everyone, let's work together? Or is it the winner takes it all? What's the idea here? Is it China, the US dominating the world? Well, you know, it's a bit of both, but what we're trying to say is that France and Europe are credible players on AI, and we want to go further and faster. We are the fifth global power in AI. France is. So we have great strengths, but we're also running a little late, aren't we? Well, we're all late behind the US in investment and training. Well, on training, we have partnerships. We have a partnership with India, which is excellent on training. So like I said, we have 40,000 students, but we're planning on training 100,000 students. We have data scientists, mathematicians. France has talent, and that is a strength. We are lagging on data centers. So computing power, you need supercomputers that will take all of this data. And you just announced a partnership with the UAE. Yes, and with Canada. So yes, Europe is going to go faster, France is going to accelerate too, and tomorrow we will announce 109 billion euros of investment in AI over the years to come. And that is the equivalent of what the US announced with Stargate. So basically, the US announced 500 billion, and we're going to do 109 billion. And it's because we worked so hard and because we have strength. And the UAE is going to make these investments. They're going to create a huge data center. And in American and Canadian investment funds and French companies will also be present. Orange, Thales, and others. When you install a data center, Mr. President, it uses up a lot of energy. So what about the environment? Are you going to talk about it at the summit? Yes, we will. And we're creating a partnership for sustainable AI because it does use a lot of energy. And the two rare elements that you need are, first of all, the processors, the chips, the semiconductors, the most powerful and the smallest, and also energy, carbon-free energy. That's what we need. So, in Europe, we launched a big program on semiconductors with the help of the EU. And in France, we actually make semiconductors, and we're going to continue making them. And we want to create new partnerships.
And the Stargate announcement.
I just want to finish, Palki, sorry, on semiconductors. So semiconductors and energy use. And I want to focus on this because I think neither the French nor the Indians know this. In France, what is a huge strength is that we have some of the most carbon-free energy in the world. We have a stable grid, and we export our carbon-free energy because in the 60s, our predecessors chose nuclear energy. We developed it, and we are continuing to build new nuclear reactors, and we also focus on renewable energy. So last year, as a result of this, we exported 90 terawatt hours. And no other European country produces so much carbon-free energy in addition to its own consumption. And so when we build data centers in France, it's different to the US because their data centers use oil and gas.
Push for this tomorrow, then. Are you going to ask for sustainable development of AI?
Yes, and we're doing two things for that. We're saying France is the best. And we're saying when you come and build data centers in France, they will be clean because our electricity is clean. And we're not going to do it to the detriment of our industry, of our households, and so on, because we already export energy. And secondly, we believe in frugal AI, and that's what recent innovations have shown. Our models consume less because they are more specialized. And today, in the LLMs, amongst these LLMs in which you go and type things, you should go download Mistral instead of ChatGPT. We should do that. When you download it, you're helping France. You're helping a European champion. And that is sovereignty.
But the kind of money you've announced, Mr. President, you're talking about frugal innovation. The Americans have thrown money at the problem. You are talking about a big project. And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
Well, that's just to be expected because things are moving very quickly. So we were thinking that it was all about scale, that you had to be faster. But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model and then they recalibrated it. And they were more frugal. So that's what made it more economical. Well, everyone's going to do that, and that's why you need to be a part of the race. So is that good news for us? Well, I would like the next generation of this to come from Europe. So there is a kind of race to scale. Are we fully lagging behind? No, we're actually in the race, and the investments that we'll be announcing tomorrow will help us do our share. And then we need to be the most innovative, we need to be the smartest, and these innovations need to be linked to people's needs, and that's what we saw with the exoskeleton earlier. So tomorrow we have Peugeot, Citroën, our big car makers in France and in the world. They are actually building a partnership with Mistral, which is excellent news. That means that everywhere in the world, when you buy a car, you will have an AI assistant in these Peugeot and Citroën cars, which will help you drive, which will collect data at the same time, and which will make Peugeot and Citroën stronger. And so, are you telling Indians to download Mistral instead? Yes, patriotism. You know, it's something that I believe in. For 7 years, I've heard a lot of debates in France that seem crazy to me. You know, oh, we should tax these companies and so on. So, you know, sometimes our CEOs go abroad. They offshore their companies. You know, I'm telling them to be patriots as well. You know, when we were all of the last 7 years, they also need to recognize all the good that we've done. So would you call these CEOs and tell them that? Yes, for 7 years we've been working on the supply side. That is, focusing on innovation, re-industrialization. We've done it at record levels, creating jobs. We have startups, innovation. We're leading Europe on that, leading Europe in AI. All of the work that we've done. And public services, redistribution. And it's not just about preserving that, it's about accelerating it. And what I want to say tonight is that it's a new era for progress. France and Europe can be champions with India, right? Investing. Investing 109 billion euros. French and foreign money. And then we have AI,
Prime Minister Modi tomorrow. I wanted to know what can we expect in terms of announcements on your partnership with India, and as India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
I think that with Prime Minister Modi, we firmly believe that India and France are two great powers. And we have a special relationship. We respect and want to work with the US. We want to work with China, but we want to depend on no one. And we have a bilateral partnership on that basis. In defense. With our navies, our fighter planes, technology, major engineering training programs. India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year. So more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. 3. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. With Mr. Modi, we launched the International Solar Alliance to develop solar energy in our countries and in the world. We also have civilian nuclear programs. So it's a very deep-seated conviction that we want to be independent. That doesn't mean we want to be isolated, but we want to have technologies and partners that we can trust without dependencies. And that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. It's part of the Indo-Pacific strategy. And what brings us together with India, with Japan as well, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and us as a power in the Indo-Pacific.
Back in the day, diplomatic relationships and you know, the quest for power was, there was a space race, there was a arms race, now there's an AI race. Is AI going to determine who is a global power? And in that context, when you work with India, you and Prime Minister Modi have both talked about strategic autonomy a lot in the past few years. Are you then going to push for tech sovereignty together?
Totalement, et d'ailleurs,
yes, absolutely, and that's what we're already doing. India, of course, has a much larger population than we do. You mentioned it. It's a huge power, very dynamic on the demographic front. And India and France is leading. So we have the US and China far ahead. And then you have France, the UK, India, the UAE, and then Germany, and the others. So we want to work together on AI. And Prime Minister Modi, you were showing these major companies earlier. Prime Minister Modi is facing the same issues. They're all American, and there's a few Chinese players in that space. And he wants to benefit from the innovation, but he wants it to also be happening in India. Sometimes, if there's non-cooperation with these players, then you need to be able to take things forward on your own. We saw it with COVID. When things go wrong, people look inwards, and that makes sense. If you depend on others to produce medicine or technology, then things can go wrong. So we need that partnership, because we have shared interests and because we have the same worldview, focused on friendship and also interests. So together we will develop technological sovereignty. We want to train our talent, that they can go abroad, but they should also be at home. And we want to create data centers in India and in France with sustainable energy. And we want our own language models in France and in India. We don't want to depend on the US and Chinese models, and we want applications in all fields. So more than a partnership, it's a new alliance. It's a third way forward. There's the US and China, and perhaps Europe, France, and India can be a third way. I believe very strongly that that is the future. And that is why in 2018 I started this Indo-Pacific strategy. And I'm obsessed with one thing, and that is that I want our children to lead better lives than we do. And I want them to have a say in their future. That is independence, that is progress for France and for Europe. And so I believe very, very strongly that we need to fight today. When it comes to our technology, when it comes to our defense, all of these issues, we need to make sure we depend on no one. Now, the French have been listening to you. We talked about AI. Palki, I'm just going to talk about French politics for a while. They wonder whether our president is only interested in AI or whether he's also interested in pension reforms, in the tax system in France. Are you still interested in domestic politics or not? Well, I answered you earlier, but you were talking about AI. Well, everything is linked together. What about citizenship by birth? Well, that's the role of the parliament and the prime minister and his cabinet. So, do you think that today it's easier to be prime minister than to be president following the dissolution? Well, that's how institutions work. The Prime Minister, like his predecessors, heads the cabinet, leads his ministers, comes up with bills for Parliament, and the Prime Minister works alongside the President. It's always been the case. And so, do you plan to organize referendums? Well, there are times that the President is more involved, but actually, I think the idea is to focus on broader guidelines. So let's move to the rapid fire.
One question before that. I wanted to ask you, are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
Well, I don't think that it makes sense to ban a technology because of where it comes from. That's not our approach. But for all the technology, all around the world, where it doesn't come from Europe, we look into it carefully if our sovereignty is at stake. We've done it in the past for technology. So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from, but we will think about whether we can accept non-European technology for critical sectors. Here's an example, telecoms.
It's a yes or no question.
Pardon?
It's a yes or no question.
Aujourd'hui, on ne va
Well,
pas les
no,
bannir.
we're not going to ban them today. But it's related to what you were saying on technological sovereignty. This is a question that will be a focus. So, yes or no, 60 seconds. It's going to be very short. Short questions, short answers. Let's go. I'll ask the first question. Is AI already a threat for our democracy?
Oui ou non?
Oui.
Yes.
Which country is France's most important partner in Asia?
Je dirais l'Inde.
India.
Est-ce que vous gérez personnellement?
Do you manage your own social media accounts?
Je regarde.
I might look, but I don't manage.
What is your favorite way to address people? Tweets, TikToks, or the good old press conference?
Ça dépend desquels.
Well, it depends.
Comme ça.
Est-ce
This is
que
the best.
le réseau X d'Elon
Is
Musk est
Elon
un outil de
Musk's
propagande ou
X a tool for
d'information?
propaganda or information?
C'est un réseau social, ni l'un ni l'autre.
It's social media. It's neither one nor the other.
Mais surtout pas un lieu d'information.
But it's not for information.
One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
Un mot
Friendship.
pour décrire votre
One word
relation
to
avec
define
le
your
président
relationship
Trump?
with Donald Trump.
Respect.
Respect.
France, AI dominating the world, or France winning the next World Cup? What do you want?
Les deux.
Les deux.
Both.
Est-ce que vous utilisez encore, Monsieur le Président,
And do you
l'application Strava
still
lors de votre
use
jogging?
the Strava
Je l'ai
app
jamais
for running?
utilisé.
I never
C'était
used
les gens
it.
qui couraient autour de
Oh,
vous.
is the-
Je crois même pas. Je pense
There was
qu'ils
people running
l'utilisaient pour
around
leur
you?
jogging à eux.
I think
quelques-uns,
people
mais
were
vous inquiétez
using
pas,
it for
la
their
sécurité est
own
bien assurée.
running. But don't
Ok,
worry, my
merci,
security is
Monsieur le
fine.
Président. Merci, Malky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Palki, for being with us. It was such a pleasure and an honor to be with you this evening.
Fantastic.
Namaste.
The pleasure is all
Merci.
mine.
Namaste.
Merci beaucoup. Merci à vous.
Thank you.
Tout de suite, c'est du cinéma. Merci, Monsieur
And
le
now
Président.
we move on
Du
with
cinéma
a
sur France
film
2, SOS Fantôme, l'héritage.
with SOS
À très
Phantom.
bientôt.
À
Thank
très
you.
bientôt.
Merci à vous.
Bon
Merci.
courage à toutes et tous.
Thank you.